Om Shanti. Let's start with a few minutes of meditation, then we'll have today's session. Just sit still and quiet. Allow your body to be calm and relaxed. Now gently turn your attention inwards and take it to your mind. I become aware of my mind. My mind is always thinking about something or the other. Just observe what your mind is thinking right now. Is it about some person, some behavior, somebody's personality? Is it about some situation which is currently there, or some situation you are expecting in the future? Is your mind thinking about some memory? Just observe. This is my mind, where thoughts come, persist for a while, and then change. So thoughts arise, persist, and then some other thought comes. This is that layer of my consciousness which is on the surface. Now let me go deeper within. As I take my attention a little deeper, a little beyond the mind, I will arrive at the core of my being, which is pure and peaceful, absolutely still, silent, pure and peaceful. No thought, no turbulence, absolutely still, radiant, silent, peaceful and pure. This is the core of my being. As I reach it, I feel stable and calm. The turbulence in my mind also starts to calm down. Just as I connect with the core, just as I plug into the core, everything else automatically calms down. I understand that my core is who I am. The mind is just temporarily influenced. But as soon as I plug into, become aware of myself, my innate being, the mind also calms down. Just stay there. Stay connected with the being that you are, the being of light, the being of stillness, the being of silence, peace, and purity. Just dwell on yourself for some time. Om Shanti. So, just like you have the ability to allow whatever is turbulent outside to get into your mind, you also have the ability to pull out the silence and stillness of the core and bring it to your mind. So it depends on where you plug in your attention. And when we work during the day, when we are with people, we are not always aware. So most of the times our mind is under influence, and then the energy, the vibration, the sights, the sounds, the memories all flood the mind. But then if you sometimes take a break, maybe a minute in an hour, and just go into the core, plug in there, and source that peace, that stillness from the core into the mind outwards. This will be a practice which will help you stay grounded and in balance. Spirituality is not about shifting from one extreme to the other. It's not like right now the consciousness is material and then you totally unplug from the material and then you leave the material. It's not like that. It just enables you to find your balance in this world which is material. So you can compare it to the turning top lattu. So in that turning top, what happens is when the top finds its ground, when it is centered and anchored properly, then it can turn around every way in a nice manner, smooth manner. And this is about spirituality. It gives you an anchor so that you can move around in this world in a very nice fashion, in a smooth manner. So this is how we see spirituality. Now, today we will talk about some pairs of opposites like love and attachment, and there was a question about self-respect and ego. So I will try to cover as many as I can. So first we will take up self-respect and ego. So in Hindi there are three words: Swabhiman, Abhiman, and what we say Swaman. So I don't know whether you have come across this word Swaman earlier or not. So I will introduce you today to something which is called Swaman. So there is Swaman, there is Swabhiman, and there is Abhiman. So mostly when we translate that into English, Abhiman is ego, Swabhiman is self-respect, okay, and in Gyan, we say Swaman is self respect, not Swabhiman. Okay. But I have come up with another word which is a very nice word which explains Swaman. You can call it self honor. Okay, self honor. So there is self honor, then there is something that we normally in normal language call self respect, which corresponds to Swabhiman, and then there is Abhiman or ego. Okay, so now let us understand how it is perceived in the world first, then we will talk about how we see it in Gyan. So, first, ego and self respect as it is seen in the world. So, for example, somebody talks about your money is okay. Okay? So, somebody says you're poor, so and you react, so that is about ego. But then somebody talks about your character and then you feel hurt, then you say, my self respect got hurt. Okay, so somebody sabotages your character, or somebody talks ill about you, or says you stole something, or you are a thief or a liar, or you are of downtrodden character. So these things we say, no, I couldn't handle it because they hurt my swabhiman, or they hurt my self respect. So this is how we talk about it in the world. Now the thing is, Baba says, Baba means God. So when I talk about Baba, this is Baba, this point of light. Okay, so how he says, we will talk about that later. But when I say Baba, I'm not referring to any human being. I'm talking about this Baba who is sitting beside me while I conduct the class. Okay, so Baba tells us that you don't have to go into this game of Swabhiman or Abhiman, which is mostly the one and the same thing. So you stay in Swaman. What is Swaman? Your honor about who you are. So you know who you are and nobody can hurt that. So when your dignity about yourself is based on what you know about yourself, then you are not vulnerable or to other people's opinion. So Swabhiman and Abhiman both can be hurt, but Swaman can never be hurt, because that is your self honor, or that is your honor about yourself because of what you know about yourself. And even if somebody challenges it, uh, it is of no consequence, because it is not based on what they think about you, it is based on what you think about yourself. Okay, so when I say I am in Swaman, that I am a peaceful soul, okay, and then somebody says, I have seen you and you are far from being peaceful, and you are like the most agitated person I have seen in my life, and I don't know what gives you the right to say you are peaceful. So then what I have to do is I have to maintain my self honor and not get agitated. Because if I get agitated because of their opinion, then I am no more in Swaman. And then they are right about me. Okay, so if you get hurt, then you are not in Swaman, and then you have already made yourself a part of that game where other people can toss you around and other people can do whatever they want with your mind. Okay, so this whole thing about Swabhiman and Abhiman is where you are vulnerable to other people's opinion. And about Swaman, whatever you are sure of, you maintain that in your thought, word, and action. So if your Swaman is, I am of good character, then your character would reflect in how you think, how you speak, and how you act. And only you can perform action which takes you away from Swaman. Nobody else can pull you away from Swaman, because your Swaman is based on what you know, how you think, how you speak, and how you act. And all of these are your prerogative. So nobody else can influence it. But if they are able to influence it, then that is not your Swaman and you are already not in Swaman. So there is no no point challenging them, because you are already away from your seat of Swaman. So, am I able to paint a picture of it? Because these things are a little tricky. So, you think about it. So, when you say self honor, your honor of who you are is based on your knowing about yourself, and that knowing about who you are is reflected in your thought, your word, and your action. So, if you are able to keep these four things intact, what are those four things? That I know I'm peaceful, that I think peacefully, come what may, that I speak peacefully, come what may, and that I act peacefully, come what may, then nobody can pull you down from Swaman. Nobody can hurt you in your Swaman. But if it is based on, if it is Swabhiman or Abhiman, like when you say that I am of good character and people should ratify it, or acknowledge it, or validate it, or recognize it, and then somebody says, no, you are of no good character, and then you start behaving which justifies their words. So then you yourself are going against your Swabhiman, not them. Okay, so even if the whole world says you are not okay, you should be able to tell yourself, I'm okay. And if they can't see it, it's their problem, not mine. All right. So, but then if you can only be so sure about yourself if your man, vachan, karam, that is how you think, how you speak, and how you act, how you conduct yourself, is in alignment with you, what you know about who you are. Okay, so this is why, this is closely connected to making your conscience your best friend. Okay, so when somebody tells you something, you can ask yourself whether what they are saying is true, but you will get an answer from within that no, what they are saying is wrong, only when you have thought, spoken, and acted according to who you think you are. Otherwise, your conscience will bite and it will say, yes, what that person is saying is true. And so you apply force and make that person take away his words. Because if he doesn't take away his words, you can't live with the reality that you are this person. So, this is why you need to assert so much to the other that you are not this, because your conscience is biting and you are not able to silence that. Okay, so this is the whole problem. So when you are in Swaman, you are not affected by somebody talking ill about your character or about your looks or about your way of doing things, or somebody calls you a thief or whatever. If they call you a thief, you say you can check whatever you are doubtful of. And then why does it hurt that somebody called you a thief? Because you are not a thief. So they will soon find out if they check. So you know you are not a thief. So what is there to feel bad about it? Okay, so these are the things, I'm giving you the worst possible example so that it makes sense. So because these are, I think there are only three things which are very hurtful for people. One is people leave you when you are ill, or physically you are not in good health and people betray you, or if somebody calls you a thief, or somebody calls you that you are not doing enough of what you should do, or somebody assassinates your character. These are the three four things which really people say this is about self respect. But then these things are not about self respect, they are also about ego, because you are depending on other people for validating who you are. And if you see, if you allow somebody to be in a position where they can hurt you, they will do that sooner or later. This is a law. Okay, so you should never allow somebody to be in a position to hurt you. And how do you ensure that? By finding your position. Okay, so you can't stop them from acting the way they want to act. But when you have found your ground about, I know who I am, and it has got nothing to do with somebody validating it or not validating it, then you are in a position where nobody can hurt you. So even if somebody tells you 100 things that you don't agree with, you can just say, is it over? Are you done with it? Okay, thank you. Have a nice day. Okay, so if somebody wants to tell you their opinion, they are welcome to their opinion, but then you know who you are, so it doesn't matter. But if you don't know who you are, and if you don't behave true to who you are, then you will always be in this vulnerable position. So there is another law which Baba has told us, which is the one who is in Swaman always gives Samman. So if you are in self honor, you give respect and then you earn respect, because what you give comes back to you. And if you are in lack of Swaman, then you insult other people. Okay. And then that is what comes back to you. Okay, so when you are in lack of self honor, then you're forcing people to respect you. And in that case, you are putting them down all the time. And then that is what comes back to you, because you are putting them down, they will also put you down. Okay. So if somebody tells you you are not good enough and you say, no, but you are very nice, I really admire this quality about you. Maybe you have a different opinion about me, but I really find this quality admirable in you. Then the next thing they say is, yes, but this quality in you is also very admirable. So if you are in Swaman, you extend that respect to somebody and then they give you what you give them. But if you are in not in Swaman, then somebody tells you, I find this wrong with you. You say, I find 10 things wrong in you. Should I tell that to you? So, and you start counting that and they can tell you 20 things that they find wrong in you. So basically, if we are living with people and we want good relationships, then it starts with knowing who you are and then reminding people of their capacity to be appreciative by appreciating. So when you are in Swaman, you can see the goodness in others. And when you see the goodness in others and remind them of that goodness, they also get in touch with that and they also start sharing that with you. Okay. So this is about Swaman, Swabhiman, and Abhiman. Now, and there is Apman also related. So when you are in Swaman, you don't give Apman, so you don't get Apman. Okay. Now, there is another thing about love and attachment. So, we talked about love a lot yesterday, but still, I will give a very small distinction, which is in attachment, there is dependence. In attachment, there is dependence. And in love, there is no dependence. Okay. So, if I am a loveful being and my energy is that of love, then I radiate love because that's my quality, not because of what I want from the other person. So there is no dependence. So even if the other person does not pay back in the same measure or reciprocate less or more than what I give, then I am not in trouble because I am only expressing who I am. It is not about what I want from them. So this is why true love is sets you free or liberates you. So you don't feel suffocated that somebody is counting on you or is depending on you. Do you feel suffocated that I am counting on you or waiting for you every day? No, because that's how it should be. You should do as much as you want to do, and I should do as much as I want to do. It should not be about, okay, I sit, so you have to sit. I may tell you that you should be regular and you should put your video on, but then that's for you. And even if you don't comply with it, I should be okay with it. And if I'm not okay, then there is a problem. Okay, so then you will also not be okay with me. So this is how it works. It's an energy. So when there is dependence, and that is why there is an expectation of reciprocation, and then there is disappointment if it is unreciprocated. So that is when we call this as attachment. And when there is a give and take which is unconditional, which is I influence you, but then you are free to be influenced or not influenced, and you are free to choose how much and how long you want to do something. So that freeing energy is love. And then when there is no expectation, there is no disappointment. So there are two things. Once you expect, you will be disappointed. So because there is no expectation, there is no disappointment. So it is love and not attachment. Now, one thing I will clear here, there is a difference between hope and expectation. Like when you engage with somebody, you cannot create a thought that, oh, these people will not continue or they will not be interested in listening. So obviously when you do something, you have a hope that it will go down well and it will be received well and the other person will benefit. But the difference between hope and expectation arises when that thing that you are doing is not reciprocated. So if it is hope, hope feeds on hope. So even if you don't respond the first time, I am hopeful you will respond the second time. If you don't respond the second time, I'm hopeful you'll do it the third time, because it is my duty to plant the seed of hope and perform a karma. And without hope, you cannot perform karma. So you will have a hope that this will go down well and this will bear fruit. But even if it doesn't, you are not you are not disappointed, because you are not operating from an empty place within. Okay, so when you are operating from an empty place within, then if your hope is not reciprocated, you will feel disappointed because you're waiting. Once you're empty, you're waiting. Acha, ye bhi karenge. They have to do something in return. And if they don't do it, you will be disappointed. Okay, so this is the basic difference between love and attachment. This is a very thin line. Okay, and I will tell you one incident. So, in a class, once there was a mother and a son sitting. So, there was mother on one screen and there was the son on the other screen. It was on Zoom. Had a relationship where the mother was a little disappointed in the son. So now the son also has children. So now, when this thing about expectation came up, so the son said, why do parents have to expect from children? Because I do not expect from my children. Okay, so then I told that father that you are not in an age to expect from your children are young. So you are not in a position to decide whether you expect or not. Let us talk about this once your son is 25 years of age. Okay, so these things also have a way, like when your child is young, you don't expect because you know he is not in a position where you depend on him. But when you see that child growing and you find him in a position where you think you can depend on him, you start depending on him. And that is when the game shifts. Okay, so one should always be careful that in a relationship sometimes you are not depending because you are yet to find that person worthy of being dependent on. But then as soon as they become worthy, then you start depending, and then it becomes bad, and then that seed of disappointment which was not there earlier starts getting sown. So even if people around you are capable and worthy and very able, always take care that you do not source your dependence from other people, because people may or may not oblige. And when they don't oblige, then there is disappointment. So always try to stay in a position where you source your strength, your power from within yourself or from God. We will talk about God and how to source your strength from God. And you should always believe in this law that if you are sent to this earth, you are sent as an individual, you were not sent as a party. So you were sent as an individual. So the universe has provision to which will ensure that you can take care of yourself individually. You don't have to depend on another person to take care of you, and never create this thought that this person will take care of me. Always create this thought that I can take care of myself and I can take care of many others also. So why do you have to create your destiny in such a manner that, okay, I will fend for this person up to this age and then they will do for me? No, I should always create a thought and an energy and radiate this and create this destiny that I will be capable of taking care of myself always, and I can take care of many others. Okay, I am a powerful, noble, a great soul, and I can do more than people can think I can do. So, this is something. So, don't create these thoughts of dependence. We were sent alone, so we are supposed to be capable of fending for ourselves. Emotionally, physically, spiritually, every which way, financially, every which way. So otherwise you would have been sent in a package, so two three people sent together and then their dates of births and deaths organized that way, but it was not done that way. Okay, so that is about dependence and love and attachment. Then I touched upon this thing about greed and ambition, and like doing your own karma. So you should not do something because of what you will get from it. You do something because you have been bestowed with a lot. So you do karma because you are capable of doing it, not because of what you will get out of it. So you have physical energy, you have financial energy, you have the energy of the mind, you have the energy of speech. So it has to be put to good use, and you are a trustee of the resources that the universe has vested in you. So it is your duty to put them into good use. And when you put them into good use, you will receive a return according to the law of karma, that whatever you give out will come back to you, multiplied by a million times. So you don't have to do something in an expectation that you will get something. Getting will be the return. Getting is natural, it is emphasized in the law of karma. So, once I will tell you one incident. There was one brother, and he came to me and he said that, so, why do you say this spirituality is not a business? And you say that because people donate at the center, and so when they donate, so your sustenance is also ensured there. So, why do you say that this is not a business? And then why do you say that this is philanthropy? So I said, no, I didn't say this is philanthropy. This is a word you said. I said, this is seva. So this is something we do. So he said, but then how is this different from what we do? So I told him, see, you've come here and you are trying to learn how to manage your life well from here, right? Now, if what I teach you is what I practice, and by what I practice, my life is miserable. So I am in lack of funds and physical health, and every which way I am miserable. Then how do you believe in what I'm teaching you? So I'm basically teaching you what I practice. So I'm teaching you that if you do good karma, you will always be taken care of. And you will never be in a position where you will need to beg or borrow or steal. So the universe will take care of you if you do good karma. This is precisely what I'm teaching you. So when we also do our thing, which is good karma, then it is reciprocated, and it is because of the law of reciprocity. It's not because of what we expect from the other person, but this is how it works because of the law. So, this is something everybody needs to know, that you don't need to do something in an expectation of return. When you sow a seed, that the nature is that seed will be watered by the universe, and then it will bear fruits, and those fruits will be available for you to eat. Okay, so don't do something out of expectation or desire or greed. Do because you're capable of doing that. All right. Now, this is about greed and attachment and love, and then what else remains? Okay, so then there is sometimes, people ask this question also, that when we don't have to get angry, then don't we have to respond to situations? So, this also I clarified in a previous session, that no reaction does not mean no action. So you don't have to get angry, but that doesn't mean you don't have to be assertive, or you don't have to be firm, or you don't have to be very clear about what you are saying, or what you mean by what you say. So you can be very clear, you can be very firm, you can be very assertive, but when you are in anger, you lose control over yourself. So that is not the situation. You are emotionally stable, you are in sound spiritual and mental state, and then you do what you think is the right thing to do. Okay, so it is not being said that you become a doormat and people walk over you. That is not the suggestion. Okay, so not getting angry doesn't mean that you will not put your foot down, or not assert, or not be firm about how you want things to go about. But again, if they don't agree, then again you have to keep patience and reiterate what you want. But then this is about negotiating. So, just like You go to a vendor, you all know how to negotiate. Okay, you go and buy tomatoes. How do you buy tomatoes? You go and say, he offers a price, so 20 rupees, you say no, 18 rupees. He says no, 19 rupees, you say no, 18, or I'm going. So then they say, no, okay, okay, 18. So this is how you negotiate. So, but then you don't have to get angry because you are negotiating. So this happens all the time. So you want something from somebody, they want something from you. So there is a negotiation, and you have to fix for yourself what is the price you're willing to pay and what is it that you want. So, and then you have to keep negotiating until you come to an agreement, and you don't have to get angry about it, because one negotiation stops, another opens. So, this whole life is about negotiating. So, how much will you get angry? You know? So, you have to just say what you want, and you have to listen to what they are saying, that this price is what you have to pay if you want this. And then this whole negotiation has to be done in a calm mind. This is how it happens. Okay, so there is no need to get angry about anything, and anyway you cannot determine the outcome, so you keep negotiating until you get the best deal. All right, so this is about not getting angry but responding calmly, firmly, assertively, every which way, but not damaging yourself in the process. Because there is a very beautiful saying by Buddha, and Buddha says that anger is like holding a piece of burning coal in your hand with the intention to throw it at the other. And in the process, it is your hand that burns. Okay, so never burn your hand, even if you are not able to throw that piece of coal on the other. So don't burn your hand in the process. So you should always take care that you stay calm and you do everything, you negotiate, you talk, but never lose your control, because as soon as you lose your control, it starts affecting you, your body, your mind, your everything else. And do you know, if you get angry once, your blood pressure doesn't normalize for 8 hours. It takes 8 hours for your blood pressure to gain normalcy after you create one bout of anger. And just imagine how many times do you get angry again in those 8 hours. And this is why blood pressure is a chronic problem. Okay, because the source is chronic. So once you get angry, then you keep getting angry, and then this blood pressure never gets normal. You take a medicine, and then it manages it for an hour or two, but then again it spikes up, because you are again creating that energy of anger, which is destabilizing your blood pressure. So why do you have to punish yourself for something that somebody else has done? So if somebody else is doing something wrong, you tell them that you're not going, that don't do this, and if this is not happening, then there will be consequences. But then don't punish yourself for others' mistakes. And when you create anger, this is precisely what you're doing. Okay, so never punish yourself for misdeeds that other people do. So when this is why you should never get angry. So I think some distinctions I've made, and so what we have to do all day now is just keep an eye on your inner self and keep checking whether there is anger or greed or attachment or expectation or ego which is cropping up. And if it is cropping up, then talk to your mind and change that feeling. Okay, so it is about SOS. SOS is stop, observe, and switch. Stop, observe, and switch. So you stop many times in a day, just like we did in the beginning of the session. Go inside, observe your mind, see what it's engaging in, then connect with yourself, okay, and then switch the feelings in your mind or the thoughts in your mind. Only when you remind yourself of your true nature, or say seat yourself on this seat of knowledge that we are getting here, then your mind starts behaving differently. So this is what you do many times in a day. But before that, you have to lay the foundation for this. And that is done first thing in the morning, because morning shows the day. So, if you do not prepare yourself first thing in the morning, then you will not have this ability to stop, observe, and switch available to you during the day. So, as soon as you wake up, sit and reflect on the fact of who you are and what your true nature is. Create feelings which are in consonance with your true nature, and let those hormones, those good hormones corresponding to those feelings, flow in the body. Okay, so this practice, these 5-minute practices that we do in the beginning and the end, you have to practice this first thing in the morning as soon as you wake up. Now, I will tell you that the ideal time to wake up is 4 in the morning. Why? We will talk about that in a later session. It is called the Brahma Muhurat, and that is the time which is set in the scriptures and in Gyan. And Baba also says that is the time when you should program yourself for the day. But even if you are not able to wake up at 4 a.m., what you can do right now is wake up 15 minutes before your usual time. Okay, so even if you wake up at 6 a.m. every day, try waking up at 5:45, and then 15 minutes sit and practice soul consciousness, and then set for the day. And then during the day, take breaks, go inside, connect with yourself, and switch the thoughts in your mind as many times as you can. Okay, so these are the two practices. I have not covered them in detail. I have not even covered why 4 a.m. So we will do this in the session on Monday, because tomorrow we will not have a session. Tomorrow is Sunday. So Monday we will have a session. So and today there is a session on digital wellness. You must have received an invitation for that. So I would urge you to attend that session if possible, 7 p.m. The brother who is conducting that session is an expert in that area, and he's a very good speaker and a Raj Yoga practitioner for over 20 years. So I would urge you to attend that session today. And if you miss that session by any chance, I think there'll be a recording, so you can listen to it tomorrow in that same YouTube page which was posted to you earlier. All right, so this is about it. So today there's that digital wellness session, and then tomorrow is a holiday for you, and then day after tomorrow we will talk more about how to plan your day and other stuff. But today was about the difference between the various terms which we use, which cause a lot of confusion. All right, now let me take questions. Not received invitation, I will send you a message. Okay, so okay, won't this make the concept of feedback null and void? So, no, I told you that if the feedback is genuine, it will hurt your conscience. So, you cannot stay calm if the feedback is genuine. So, if the feedback is genuine, it will definitely disturb your conscience. And if it is not genuine, it will not. So, staying in self respect is not easy. So, if you are in self honor, then only the feedback will not disturb you. In a situation, how to decide right and wrong decision. All right, now you see, um this so we will talk about karma in the coming sessions. So you will get clarity about what is good karma and what is bad karma. But then about decision, so decision is about doing the right thing at the right time. So we can learn about the right thing and the wrong thing in karma, but about the timing. So this timing, this sense of timing comes with a lot of practice. But what I understand, what I can suggest right now is, once you understand about karma, even if you have taken a decision which looks like maybe not a very good decision at this time, you can still go with it and make it right. Okay, so for example, I know that something is in keeping with good karma. For example, let me give you a scenario. So I sent out a message that I will conduct a session at 7:30 in the morning. Now, I think this is good karma, and I made a decision based on good intention, and I want to perform good karma through this. Now, if it so happens that only 4 people turned for the session, okay, so it doesn't look like a good decision, because maybe I chose a time which didn't work well, for which was not suitable for many people. So then what I can do is I can make it right. How can I make it right? On the first day, when I see 4 people, I can conduct the session with my full energy and full conviction that this is going to work. And then I can urge these 4 people to bring 4 people tomorrow. Okay, so this is how you make a decision right. So, one is, as soon as you encounter an obstacle, you start doubting it. Another is, when you are sure that this is good karma, so if it is giving you a bite in the conscience, then don't go with it, change it. But if it is in keeping with your conscience and you know it is a good thing to do, then you can make it right by not second guessing yourself after you encounter an obstacle. All right, so this is how it works. These are hypothetical questions, so hypothetical answers are only possible. Okay. Um, should we not tell anybody about anyone's weakness? We should. We should, and that is our duty. But we should not keep that weakness in our heart. Okay. So when I point out a weakness in you, I have to keep your good quality in my heart, so that there is an energy of respect and love that I radiate while I point out a weakness. Okay, so we must point out weaknesses, but the energy with which we point that out should be encouraging and uplifting, not demeaning and discouraging. Okay, so this is how you don't keep a weakness in your chit. You point out a weakness to the other and hold good wishes and good feelings in your chit. Okay. What is there with children? Love or affection? Love and affection are almost the same thing. It becomes attachment only when you start depending on them. So there is an age when love starts changing into attachment, which I pointed out. So you should be careful at that time. So when children are in a position where they need to depend on you, you give them what they need. But when they are growing up, you also start detaching. So you start understanding that now they will have wings and they will fly, and then you don't need to feel bad about it because you want to wish them well when they fly. So you have to start detaching once they start growing up. And this is, I think, the also the procedure recommended in psychology. Okay. If you like someone very badly and that person knows about it and he called you clingy and left you because of someone, but you still want him, so should you go back to that person? So if you still want him, that means you are clingy. So you stop being clingy. Okay, so 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 that person felt suffocated, so they left. So you, now you find another person and then you don't be clingy this time. So so you practice until you get it right. So so this person is right in thinking, so if he left you for that and you still miss him, so when you miss somebody, you are clingy and you are depending on that person, or you're sourcing your strength from that person. So I will use a very, I know, bad term, but I think we are all spiritual vampires sucking each other's blood. So so I think that what we are basically doing is, if I don't feel okay inside, I will just stick to another person and suck his own whole blood until I feel okay. And then they feel drained. So that's not the way relationships should work. It should be symbiotic, not parasitic. And for that symbiosis to be there, you have to be in a place which is, you should be okay with yourself. And only when you're okay with yourself, which is you don't miss anybody when they are not there, then you are okay with yourself. Only then you are in a position to not feel another person suffocated in your presence. Okay. So, doesn't law of reciprocity become expectation? No. And you don't, you can use it for creating expectation, but then when you believe in the law, you just have hope and you wait, and you wait with patience and positivity, and you see that law working. So when you are in haste and when you try to speed up the reciprocity, that is where expectation comes in. But if you wait long enough, everything that you give out will be reciprocated, and it is a law. Okay, so this is the thing. How can we redirect anger? You can redirect anger by being angry about your vices. So be angry about your vices and just finish them off. Okay. Is destiny fixed and can be determined by horoscope? Yes, destiny is prefixed. We will talk about it in a future session. But yes, destiny is prefixed. I don't know whether it can be determined by a horoscope, because what I think is, astrology is true, but finding a good astrologer is a myth. So, so it can be predicted, but I don't know whether you will encounter that person ever. So don't go by horoscopes, but yes, destiny is prefixed, and you will have a sense of your destiny. So every person, if you are intuitive enough, you have a sense of your destiny. You have a sense of where time is taking you. And if you trust that intuition, then that is the best guide, not any horoscope. Because horoscopes could be made by people who are with inaccurate knowledge, and then they could misguide you also. Okay. Is it okay to forgive everyone and be calm when someone hurt us, but eliminate them forever from our life to avoid such negativity? What I have understood about the law of karma is, you will not be able to eliminate them from your life. And if you are able to eliminate them, then their karmic account with you is over. So that, then okay. But then if you're just trying to eliminate and you're not succeeding in eliminating, then that is also a waste of energy. So see if you, before eliminating somebody from your life, try erasing them from your mind. And if you can do that, erase somebody from your mind, then it doesn't matter if they are in your life. And if they are in your on your mind, then even if you erase them from your life, they will still what do you say, drive you mad. so so this doesn't work until the karmic account is settled. So this is about deeper facts which we will understand later. Okay, is it the same ID password? No, we will give it to you. You will receive the ID password today. How can we change something that is in our subconscious mind? I've been expecting for something to happen, but it's not happening because of certain circumstances. How do I still stay calm and not let it affect my mind? So, if it is something good, why do you need to change it? You can just believe in it and empower it every day. So if it's something good that you're expecting, then just nurture it with good thought and just give your good wishes and your attention to it. Okay, this is happening, this is happening soon. So don't get agitated with it, just wait with positivity. Okay, and if it is something that you don't want to it to materialize or happen, then erase it. And how do you erase it? By believing that you are a good person and you deserve good and nothing wrong will ever happen to you. Okay, so that is how you erase your fears. How can we come over from our guilt of something of past? So again, this thing that I'm a good person, I deserve good, even if I did something in the past, it was because I didn't know. So I'm allowed to be happy and free even if I did something in the past. So you do not allow other people to use your past against you. You do not allow yourself to use your past against you also. Okay, so this is the sign of a wise person. You don't use your past against yourself. Okay. Okay, can we change our horoscope through good karmas? You can create your horoscope through good karmas, because if you intend to do good karma, then your horoscope was not written well. That is why there are things in it which say it won't go well. So you can write your horoscope. Probably it was written by one of those people I mentioned earlier. Okay, each one is born with some destiny. So the question is, can we change through good karmas? You can create your destiny, because the question of change arises when you know what is in your destiny. So nobody knows his destiny. Although there is a destiny, you don't know your destiny. So there is nothing to change about it, because change, the word change applies to things you know. So when you don't know, you are creating it, not changing it. Okay. So don't pre-assume first that it is bad and then try to make it good. It is good. So once you don't know something, you should suppose that it is the best and then create it that way. Okay. Will we talk more about conscious and subconscious mind later? Yes, we can, but basically, subconscious mind is your sanskars and conscious mind is your mind. Okay, so we have already talked about that. And the way to the subconscious also goes through the conscious. So what you think consciously for n number of times becomes subconscious in the n plus 1th number of time. So it is what we discussed about sanskars. But if you want, we can discuss it later also. Okay. So let's spend a few moments of in soul consciousness and then we'll finish. Take your attention to yourself. I am a soul sitting on the seat of self respect. I know I am peaceful by design and I live by what I know. I think peacefully, speak peacefully, and act peacefully. If somebody tries to pull me down, I reassert it to myself. I reinforce the feeling that I am peaceful. And I take it as a challenge that I stay peaceful despite they having a contrary opinion. I'm very sure about my nature, about who I am, and it is seconded by my karma. I know who I am, and what I do corroborates it. I do not create self doubt in the face of other people's opinions. I am listening to God. He is telling me about myself. I am listening really carefully with all my heart, and every day allowing Him to make me the best version of myself. I trust in Him and I trust in myself. Just stay in these thoughts for some time. Om Shanti.